The Colombian Supreme Court rejected Thursday U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's statements on the ruling that found former Colombian President Álvaro Uribe guilty in a witness tampering case. Mexico and the United States reached Thursday an agreement to extend the tariff increase deadline for 90 days. And the Palestinian Ministry of Health reported that the number of deaths from starvation has risen to 159, including 90 children. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Colombian Supreme Court rejected Thursday U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's statements on the ruling that found former Colombian President Álvaro Uribe guilty in a witness tampering case. The court warned that claims that cast doubt on the legality of judicial decisions erode credibility and public confidence in justice and put the lives of the country's judges and magistrates at risk. This institutional reaction comes alongside that expressed by President Gustavo Petro, who also condemned external pressure on the Colombian justice system. Mexico and the United States reached Thursday an agreement to extend the tariff increase deadline for 90 days. During her daily press conference, President Claudia Sheinbaum said she had a phone conversation of about 40 minutes with her counterpart Donald Trump and highlighted the importance of the deal to allow both parties to look for a longer-term agreement. During the call, the Mexican president was accompanied by the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Juan Ramón de la Fuente, the Secretary of Economy, Marcelo Ebrard, and the Undersecretary for North America, Roberto Velasco. The deal was made known by U.S. President Trump on his X account, where he described the agreement as very fruitful. And support for Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has increased since U.S. President Donald Trump announced imposing 50% tariffs on all Brazilian imports as of Friday. Our correspondent Brian Meir has more details.
The Trump administration has announced that the U.S. government will impose 50% tariffs on all imports from Brazil starting on Friday, August 1st, unless ex-President Jair Bolsonaro's criminal conviction for plotting a military coup is reversed. This has led to heated debate in Brazil's Congress.
É uma vergonha, deputados.
It's embarrassing to see members of Congress whose salaries are paid through Brazilian taxes standing here defending the United States and defending taxes of 50% on the backs of the Brazilian people.
Bolsonaro's allies in the far-right Liberal Party are applauding the measure, trying to frame it positively as the Brazil tariff. Meanwhile, deputies from parties aligned with the Lula administration have been more successful in convincing the public that the tariff represents an attempt by the Bolsonaro family, working through their ally Steve Bannon, to blackmail Brazil.
Se ele disse que é por causa do Bolsonaro.
If they are saying it's because of Bolsonaro, then this tariff that they want to impose on Brazil should be called the Bolsonaro tax, which is going to take away Brazilian jobs to create more jobs in the United States. So what now? What now? I want to know if Mr. Bolsonaro, Mr. Tarcísio, and Mr. Nicholas will keep wearing their little MAGA hats.
However, neither the Liberal Party nor the parties in the Lula administration's inner circle have enough elected seats to do anything on their own. As has been the case since the end of the dictatorship in 1985, nothing gets done in Congress without the support of the big center-right parties tied to families descended from the slave plantation owners and industrialists who have been powerful actors in Brazilian politics for centuries.
Trump's tariffs has caused an important change in the relationship between the Lula administration and the Brazilian Congress. Political parties from the center-right, known as the Central, have realigned in support of the Lula administration. Earlier, those parties had been acting very hostile to the president.
Recent polls show that public support for President Lula has significantly increased since Donald Trump announced the new tariffs. Brian Meir, teleSUR, Brasilia.
A survey revealed that nearly half of the Argentinian population disapproves of President Javier Milei's administration. The results indicate that public dissatisfaction with Milei's administration increased 3.7 percentage points in 1 month, going from 44.1 to 47.8% in July. The survey also consulted the evaluation of the Argentine government, showing that 42.3% of the population considered it bad or very bad, 35.8% consider it excellent or good, and 20% consider it fair. As for the image of President Milei, 52% of those polled had a negative perception of the president, compared to 43% who had a positive image. The Argentinian government has been marked by growing social discontent, driven by the economic situation faced by the population as a result of the neoliberal policies implemented by President Javier Milei. This Thursday, the international campaign Free Cristina is moving forward in Latin America and other parts of the world, aiming to overturn the ruling that keeps the former Argentine president under house arrest. A delegation of Justicialist Party legislators traveled to Mexico to launch the Committee for the Liberation of Cristina. The objective is to consolidate the denunciation of the legal persecution of Cristina Fernandez and to promote a common agenda among political forces in Latin America. In June, the Supreme Court upheld the 6-year prison sentence commuted to the house arrest with an electronic monitoring device and political disqualification in a judicial case that jurists consider to be riddled with serious procedural irregularities. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The Palestinian Ministry of Health reported that the number of deaths from starvation has risen to 159, including 90 children. Food and medical supplies remain limited due to the closure of crossings and Israel's refusal to allow humanitarian aid to enter. On March 2, 2025, Tel Aviv closed the humanitarian aid crossings, exacerbating the shortage of basic supplies, including food and medicines. In response, international humanitarian organizations are warning of the risk of widespread famine in the Gaza Strip. Palestinians from the town of Suwaida moved to the border zone of Al-Mawasi camp on Thursday in search of food amid shortage of supplies in the entire Gaza Strip. The Gazans denounced that humanitarian aid was dropped on the border crossings without prior warning, causing hundreds of people to run to distribution areas in the middle of the Israeli attacks. They also declared that they and their families have been going through days without food and water due to the shortage of food in the coastal enclave. They also urged the international communities to exert pressure to stop the Israeli aggression against the territory. Meanwhile, Israeli attacks continue across the Strip with at least 111 Palestinians, including 91 aid seekers, and 820 were injured in the past 24 hours, according to the enclave's health ministry. Among the latest attacks, a strike hit a tent in a displaced camp near Deir al-Balah in central Gaza at 2:30 a.m. local time, killing a father with his 3 kids. Over 60,000 Palestinians have been murdered since October 2023, and thousands more remain under the rubble.
We heard the news at night. We found that he died with his kids, 2 girls and a boy. We were shocked. May God protect us. No one is left from Mohammed Fat's family. Enough. There is nothing left. We put up with being hungry, but now the death of children who had just been born. Why are they being targeted?
At least 6 Sudanese soldiers were reported dead Thursday in a shooting at the Sudan-Uganda border. According to Uganda's authorities, the clash occurred in that nation's remote West Nile region and was sparked when South Sudanese forces crossed into Ugandan territory and refused to withdraw. Uganda's army said 3 South Sudanese troops were killed in retaliation after an Ugandan soldier died in the incursion. However, a South Sudanese official claims 5 of their soldiers were killed in what he called a surprise attack. Both countries' militaries have agreed to a ceasefire and promised an investigation into the incident, and the two neighbors have long disputed stretches of their shared border despite a joint demarcation committee working towards a 2027 resolution. At least 80,000 children in Africa are at risk of contracting cholera as a result of heavy rainfall in western and central regions of the continent. The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, warned that urgent action is needed to prevent a surge in cases that would be devastating for the region. The crisis is exacerbated by the overburden of the health system, flooding and displacement. The Democratic Republic of Congo is the worst affected country in the region, and in July alone, more than 38,000 cases and 951 deaths were reported, 25.6% of which were children under 5. Ongoing cholera outbreaks in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Nigeria are increasing the risk to neighboring countries. At least 10 people were reported dead by flash floods caused by heavy rains in Guinea's capital, Conakry. Local authorities reported that vulnerable neighborhoods were the most affected, with the streets turned literally into rivers and homes destroyed by the water current. Among the victims, there is a family of 5 who was found dead in the district of Sankobaja. Emergency teams are still working to rescue people trapped by the floods while local authorities assess the damages in the area. Authorities fear that the number of victims may increase in the coming hours. And we have a second short break coming up, but first we invite you to stay tuned for a special interview with renowned Iranian journalist Sahar Emami, who was recently presented the Simon Bolivar Journalism Award in Venezuela, live across our multi-platform on August 1st at 5 p.m. Quito time, Ecuador, also 6 p.m. Havana time, Cuba, only on teleSUR. We'll be right back, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The Swiss Central Bank announced losses of more than $16 billion in the first half of 2025. The bank reported that the losses were due to the fall of the dollar compared to the state currency reserve, one of the largest in the world. In this way, the bank highlighted that these results depend on the evolution of the gold currency and capital markets. Therefore, it is difficult to draw conclusions about the result of the current year. The Swiss currency reserve exceeds $900 million and is surpassed by China with around $3.5 trillion, while Japan follows with $1.2 trillion. An F-35 fighter jet has crashed in a field near Lemoore Station, a large U.S. naval airbase in California. According to reports, the pilot ejected safely. The accident caused a large fire, footage of which was widely shared on social media. The authorities have not yet revealed details on the incident involving this fifth-generation multi-role fighter aircraft. The military has confirmed that the aircraft was assigned to the VFA 125 Strike Fighter Squadron, which is responsible for training pilots and crew. While migration remains one of the most complex phenomena across Latin America, the Venezuelan government managed to rescue migrants who were deported from the United States to a Salvadoran prison. Let's see more of some of their stories in this new chapter of Venezuela on the Move with our correspondent Adriana Sibori.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Es un gusto saludarles. Hoy hablaremos sobre migración.
Hello, it is such a pleasure to greet you. Today we will talk about migration. Its causes are complex. Let's remember, for example, the 2018 caravan of Central Americans when Hondurans, Salvadorans and Guatemalans were fleeing their lands, escaping from violence and poverty. Venezuela is not accepted of this phenomenon. The difficult economic situation generated by the sanctions imposed by the White House on the country led thousands to migrate abroad, many of them to the United States. And now, Venezuelans are the ones hunting them down, jailing them and kidnapping minors and undocumented, as it is being denounced by the authorities of the Caribbean nation. These are policies of the Trump administration. However, now Venezuela continues in sustained recovery, changing that landscape. The return becomes a matter of the state seeking protection for its fellow citizens. Let's find out in this chapter more details on their return home. They have been waiting 4 months for this embrace.
I had already lost hope of being with my family again, of being in my country with my people.
Upon arriving on Venezuelan soil, the 252 young migrants reported on the torture and physical and psychological abuse they were subjected to at the extreme security prison in El Salvador.
That day, March 16th, the first thing that welcomed us was the director saying this is hell, and it really was hell.
They were arrested in the U.S. for being undocumented, and without evidence of any crime against them, they were sent to a mega prison in El Salvador, where they were denied the right to a lawyer or family visits.
To manage the release of these boys, well, the Venezuelan justice handed over 10 convicted terrorists and confessed CIA agents who were captured and whose terrorist actions were neutralized. Those they came to commit during the month of July to February this year approximately. Terrorists swapped for innocence. That was the formula.
Attention to migrants is a priority for the Venezuelan state, which in addition to rescuing the kidnapped from the Salvadoran prison, has also repatriated more than 8,000 nationals directly from the U.S. All are provided medical attention upon arrival, and authorities personally transport them to their homes. Conditions are then provided for their reintegration in society, such as employment and access to the educational system, all through the program known as the Back to the Homeland Humanitarian Plan.
I left in 2023. Approximately in August. Deceived. I was sold a dream that turned out to be a nightmare.
The migration policies of the Trump administration have caused the separation of many families.
Reclamar, denunciar.
To claim and denounce the kidnapping of Venezuelan girls and boys that occurs today in the United States. 33 Venezuelan girls and boys have been separated from their families. This is another example of the hatred, the fixation against Venezuela. That for them, it's no longer enough to attack our refineries, our oil industry, our financial system. As we have resisted, now they have gone after the migrant people, hitting where it hurts the most, which are the children, and violating all international laws.
Head of State Nicolás Maduro has committed to make all the necessary efforts for the minors' return to their families.
En los últimos 12 meses han aterrizado.
In the last 12 months, more than 50 aircraft have landed with migrants through the Back to the Homeland program. But since 2018, there have also been planes available for Venezuelans who would like to return voluntarily to their country and don't have the resources to do so. I say goodbye for now, but remain tuned to teleSUR because Venezuela on the Move continues its journey.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. Now to close this broadcast, let's listen to part of the performance of the song Alma de Rosa Baile of Roxana Carvajal during the gala for the 20th anniversary of our multi-platform. For teleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.
What is happening in China? Everything